Chapter 26. Seer looked at his small crew of warriors and the closed door to the command deck. There is only one way this has a chance at working. How many of you can fight better when fully shifted? The warriors exchanged a look.
We have enough control over our primal side to follow orders.
He felt a wave of relief. Shifting was not always done in battle because more often than not it was difficult enough to control a shadow walker when shifted in anger. To actually go into battle as one. There was usually a lot of blood, but complete chaos, which they'd discovered often caused danger to their own men as well as the enemy. A tall aristocrat with a slight bump on his otherwise uncommonly handsome face spoke.
If I shift, I can't control myself.
Nor can I.
The other confessed.
Nor I.
The final admitted, clenching a bloodied arm.
But
the tall aristocrat added,
my female is on board this vessel, and I'll be damned if I give her to those creatures. So, what I lack in experience, Commander, I assure you I make up in willpower.
Seer nodded. Good. That's what we need.
So, what's the plan?
The warrior who spoke had a crisscross of battle scars and eyes that already glowed silver. You've all already seen what I can do. The scared warrior nodded.
I thought that seeing a shifted male fighting was terrifying. But watching an animal attack is different than watching an invincible warrior. You're like a thing of magic. Too fast to follow. Too strong to stop. And nothing they did to you slowed you down. I see why your kind has been so feared.
He shuddered visibly.
I'd thought all warriors capable of battle frenzy were executed. I'm glad I was wrong.
Because the king agreed that he should spare me. A life, for saving his niece. As long as I promised never to lose control again. A promise I have willingly broken. Seer swallowed the lump his throat. I will go first. I will draw their attention away from the door. Then all of you surprise them from behind. He took a deep breath. Stay out of their reach as much as possible. Even if it takes longer to deliver a death blow, do not let one catch you.
But?
One of the men hesitated.
Will we be safe in there with you?
Seer stiffened, even though he knew the male hadn't meant to offend. I have never harmed an innocent while in my frenzy. Does that answer all your concerns? All the men nodded. Then stand back. 3 men pressed their backs to each side of the door. He stood before it, waiting for the battle frenzy to overtake him. But nothing happened. Damn it. He clenched his hands harder.
I knew you'd be headed here,
Gallant said, his voice a cautious whisper.
I stopped by the medbay to bring Kaci to the safety of the bridal floor.
Seer barely breathed.
The door was open. There was a dead Bortrak inside.
No. The roar tore through Seer and his flesh rippled. Must search for her.
She wasn't there. She must have hidden elsewhere. She's smart. But the best way to help her now is to take back the ship.
Logic slid past his anger. Gallant was trying to bring forth his battle frenzy. He may even be lying. He'd done it many, many times in the war, opening wounds that forced out the uncontrollable animal within Seer, maximizing his usefulness in battle. Now was no different. But what if he's telling the truth? He needed to take back the command deck, then find Kaci. As fast as possible. My female may be in danger. His vision went red. He turned back to the door to the command deck, pushed his claws into the crack, and tore the doors open. At least 24 Bortraks and a handful of bloodied prisoners turned to look at him. You took my ship. You endangered my female. And now you'll pay. He roared, a sound that vibrated through the ship, then leaped into the air, his claws extended in both directions, slicing the throats of the 2 closest Bortraks. They rushed him as one, pulling free their jagged blades. But as his feet landed on one control station, he leaped again toward the massive display screen, looking out at space. His flip spun him over the heads of a half-dozen surprised enemies before he landed and looked at them. They turned and came again. The world slowed. He moved, ducked, crouched, clawed, and kicked, avoiding some blows from their swords while others buried in his flesh. Some dropped their swords, trying to use their greater weapon, the strength of their arms. They tried over and over to catch him, but he was too quick, too unpredictable. He heard the sound of his warriors entering the room, their surprise attack, but focused on nothing but the enemies in front of him, of slicing through their plated armor, of tearing out their throats. At last, nothing moved around him. He was soaked in their blood. He could feel it decorating his face, his arms, his clothes.
Seer.
Gallant asked, his face wavering before his vision. No time. Kaci. Must stop her leading the attack. The scarred warrior stared behind him.
Commander, I think it may be too late for that.
Seer turned toward the display screen, horror crawling over his flesh. Sure enough, thousands of the female's tiny vessels were flooding from their ship and out into space, heading directly for the Bortrak mothership. Kaci? It was a groan of disbelief. Seer, focus. What should we do now? Gallant asked. He stiffened his spine as he saw a Bortrak ship dart free from their vessel. Someone shoot that coward, and link our communications with the women. It's too late to stop them, so we must help them. Gallant turned.
Who can link communication with the vessel?
One of the injured prisoners limped forward.
Give me 1 minute and it'll be done.
A second later, he felt Gallant touch his arm, leaning close enough to whisper.
You're injured. Badly.
I'm fine, Seer gritted out, but he didn't feel fine. His head felt light as a feather, his body a flowing mass of tension as his blood pounded through his veins.
My friend, you get like this in your battle frenzy. If you don't have those wounds tended to...
Is communication linked?
Done.
The deck officer asserted. Open the channel.
It's open.
Kaci! Seer shouted. Kaci! I just need to know you are safe. The link stayed silent. Kaci? No answer. Where is she? She must be on one of the vessels, unable to answer. He needed to help her. Help all the women. Their transportation vessel might be limited in its attack, but it could do something. Then get within range of the Bortrak warship. Fire, but use caution. I won't have our females injured by our own weapons. Males scrambled around him, trying to obey his orders. Another officer spoke over his shoulder.
Preparing to fire. Fire at the escaping enemy vessel. Should we shoot to kill?
Not when there could be female prisoners on board. He opened his mouth to answer when he suddenly felt a rush of heat spread over his body. His head spun. He gripped the command desk in front of him, blinking. Looking down at himself, he was surprised to see a gash across his chest and more gashes across his arms. Blood so dark it was nearly black flowed from him. He blinked, his medic's mind realizing immediately that the blood flow was too much. He opened his mouth to speak, but the ground shifted and then rose up to meet him.